The Haunting of Sorenson Dorm. It was a rainy fall afternoon in 1998 when Claire arrived at Hartwell University, excited for a fresh start in her sophomore year. She was assigned to room 313 in Sorenson Hall, an old, ivy-covered building that had been standing for over a century. The creaky floors, flickering lights, and drafty windows didn't bother her at first. It was just another old dorm. Her roommate, Taylor, was the total opposite, always fascinated by horror stories and the supernatural. She had already heard the rumors about Sorenson Hall being haunted, specifically their room. Claire dismissed it as superstition, but Taylor couldn't resist digging deeper. On the first night, they met Jenna and Mia, who lived across the hall, and the four of them quickly became friends. As the days passed, they began spending most evenings together, often talking late into the night in Claire and Taylor's room. Mia, the jokester, couldn't resist bringing up the old legends surrounding their dorm. "Do you guys know about the girl who died here? Room 313. Your room," Mia said one night, her voice low and ominous. "Let me guess, a ghost story?" Claire scoffed. "No, seriously," Mia insisted. "In the 60s, a girl hung herself in this room. They say she was bullied so badly she couldn't take it anymore. Ever since, weird stuff happens in this room." "Yeah, like what?" Claire challenged, not believing a word. Mia leaned in closer. "People say they hear scratching, like fingernails on the walls. Sometimes the door rattles on its own, and they've seen a shadowy figure standing in the closet." Jenna added, "And if you wake up at night, sometimes you'll feel something cold brushing against your skin." Claire laughed it off, but Taylor's eyes widened with excitement. "We have to test this out," Taylor said. That night, they set up their own investigation. Jenna brought over a Ouija board, despite Claire's protests. Mia dimmed the lights, and the four girls sat in a circle on the floor. The flickering candles cast eerie shadows on the walls. At first, nothing happened. They asked a few questions, laughing nervously as the board remained still. But just as Claire was about to declare it all nonsense, the planchette moved, slowly at first, then with more force. The girls gasped as the pointer spelled out the letters S-O-R-R-Y. A cold draft swept through the room, making the candles flicker violently. "Is someone here with us?" Taylor asked, her voice trembling. The planchette moved again. Y-E-S. Suddenly, the door handle rattled as if someone was trying to get in. Claire jumped to her feet. "That's enough. This is getting ridiculous." She blew out the candles and turned on the lights. But the door continued to rattle. Taylor went to open it. No one was there. The hallway was empty. The girls exchanged uneasy glances but tried to brush it off as a coincidence. Over the next few days, strange things began happening with more frequency. One night, Claire was lying in bed when she heard faint scratching, just as Mia had described. It started softly, almost as if someone was lightly scraping their nails against the wall. Then it grew louder, more insistent. Claire sat up in bed, her heart pounding. Taylor was fast asleep, oblivious. The scratching suddenly stopped, replaced by the sound of slow, deliberate footsteps coming from the hallway. Claire held her breath, listening. The footsteps paused right outside their door, then continued, growing fainter as they moved down the hall. The next morning, Claire mentioned it to the others. Mia's face turned pale. "I heard it too. Footsteps outside my room." They all agreed it was just their imaginations playing tricks on them until Jenna came into Claire's room later that night, shaking with fear. "Someone was standing outside my window," Jenna whispered. Claire frowned. "Jenna, we're on the third floor. No one can stand outside your window. I swear I saw a shadow. I couldn't see a face, but it was there, watching me." Unease settled over the group, but no one wanted to admit they were scared. That night they all slept uneasily, the tension thick in the air. Taylor tossed and turned, waking up several times in a cold sweat. Each time she felt as though someone was watching her, but when she opened her eyes, the room was empty. One night, as Claire stayed up late to study, the room suddenly grew icy cold. The scratching began again, this time from the ceiling. Claire looked up, heart pounding, and saw faint marks, scratches, on the ceiling plaster. Her eyes widened in terror as the door handle rattled violently, and the closet door creaked open on its own. A figure stood inside, tall, thin, and shrouded in shadows. Claire's breath caught in her throat. She couldn't move, couldn't scream. The figure took a step forward, and the temperature in the room plummeted. Just then, Taylor woke up, sensing something was wrong. She gasped when she saw the shadowy figure looming over Claire. "Claire!" Taylor screamed, and as if her scream had shattered the illusion, the figure vanished. The door slammed shut on its own, leaving them both gasping for breath. Claire was shaken. "We need to leave. We need to get out of here now." They called Jenna and Mia over. Taylor and Claire explained what had happened, but before they could leave, the lights flickered and went out. The room plunged into darkness. From the hallway came a faint, chilling voice, soft, almost a whisper, but filled with malice. "You will never leave." The girls huddled together, shaking. Then the scratching started again, but this time it was all around them, coming from the walls, the floor, even the ceiling. The closet door slowly creaked open again, and the shadowy figure reappeared, but this time it was closer. Jenna screamed and bolted for the door, but it wouldn't open. The figure stepped closer, its face finally coming into view. A pale, twisted, rotting visage of the girl who had died in the room decades ago. Her eyes were hollow, her mouth twisted into a grotesque smile. "You can't leave," the ghost whispered, her voice like nails on a chalkboard. "You're mine now." Claire, thinking quickly, grabbed her phone and played an audio file of a prayer. Her mother had always insisted she keep it, just in case. The sound of the prayer echoed through the room, and the ghost shrieked, recoiling back into the shadows. The lights flickered back on. The closet door slammed shut and the room fell silent. Shaking, the girls bolted out of Sorenson Hall, never looking back. Months later, after transferring to a different dorm, Claire found herself still haunted by nightmares of the shadowy figure. She learned from an old professor that Sorenson Hall had been closed down indefinitely, marked as unsafe. But every now and then she heard whispers that some students, brave or foolish, still snuck into room 313, hoping to catch a glimpse of the girl who never left. Some were never seen again,